Alright, good morning, guys. It's been a while since we hit Zechariah, but I figured chapter 11, four more to go. Let's get it done. So we'll go ahead and blow this up and we'll read it together. Zechariah takes place in the new kind of restored Jerusalem after the return of the exiles, if we can remember. He's talking about the high priest, and possibly a future high priest, a lot of prophetic things. We went through several visions about the future and the past. Let's keep going. Open your doors, O Lebanon, that the fire may devour your cedars. Wail, O cypress, for the cedar has fallen, for the glorious trees are ruined. Wail, O oaks of Bashan, for the thick forest has been felled. The sound of the wail of the shepherds, for their glory is ruined. The sound of the roar of the lions, for the thicket of the Jordan is ruined. So what are we talking about here? We'll continue to talk about it. Either reflecting on what happened in 586, destruction of Jerusalem, or a lot of people, well, it's what happened with Titus conquering Jerusalem. And then, of course, the third destruction of Jerusalem will be that of Jesus and the angels, right? There might be like a physical conquering or the Antichrist, but that land is getting purified with fire to allow for the heavenly city to set down. So we know that this might depict all three of those. Cedars and glorious trees. We are often seen as the trees. And of course, the temple is built out of cedar beams. So it could again be a picture of the temple. Pretty much every chapter has pointed to the temple in some way throughout this book. The sound of the wail of the shepherds, for their glory is ruined. The sound of the roar of the lions, for the thicket of Jordan is ruined. And so who are these shepherds is the question. I'm not sure I have a good answer for you, but possibly false shepherds, false leaders. It's kind of a theme throughout. And we know that Zechariah is dealing with some false prophets, false leaders here. Let's keep reading. Maybe that'll be revealed to us. Thus said the Lord my God, become shepherd of the flock doomed to slaughter. Those who buy them, slaughter them, and go unpunished. And those who sell them say, blessed be the Lord, I have become rich. And their own shepherds have no pity on them. Like a sheep, it's valuable for its wool. So if you're just killing it, it kind of defeats the purpose, and pleasure for the moment kind of thing. For I will no longer have pity on the inhabitants of this land, declares the Lord. Behold, I will cause each of them to fall into the hand of his neighbor, and each into the hand of his king. And they shall crush the land, and I will deliver none from their land. So I became the shepherd of the flock, doomed to be slaughtered by the sheep traders. And I took two staffs, one named Favor and the other named Union, and I tended the sheep. In 1 month I destroyed the 3 shepherds, but I became impatient with them, and they also detested me. So I said, I will not be your shepherd. What is to die, let it die. What is to be destroyed, let it be destroyed. And let those who are left devour the flesh of one another. And I took my staff of favor, and I broke it, annulling the covenant that I had made with all the peoples. So it was annulled on that day, and the sheep traders who were watching me knew that it was the word of the Lord. And I said to them, If it seems good to you, give me my wages, but if not, keep them. And they weighed out my wages, 30 pieces of silver. Then the Lord said to me, throw it to the potter, the lordly price at which I was priced by them. I took the 30 pieces of silver, and I threw them into the house of the Lord, to the potter. Then I broke my second staff union, annulling the brotherhood between Judah and Israel. So our minds kind of race there. It's like, well, 30 pieces of silver, just like Judas betrayed Jesus. And they bought the potter's field. All possible connections, possibly they knew Zechariah's word and just named it accordingly. Why is there a potter in the house of the Lord? I don't know. Holy vessels are mostly made up of silver and gold, but maybe at this time they were vying for cheaper options. They didn't have the wealth they once did. I think in our notes it mentions that potter could be treasurer, or maybe perhaps someone's making a figurine, which kind of takes us back to chapter 5, where there's a figurine in a basket with a lead lid that is taken by two women with stork wings to the east towards Babylon. It was called Wickedness. And we know that Jerusalem was taken into captivity, into exile, east. And at this point, he's either reflecting on all that, because obviously they're back in the land, they're trying to reset up the priesthood, trying to get a high priest going, trying to get the people focused back on the Lord. Because even after all this exile, all this time, there's still false shepherds controlling the people with scare tactics, essentially. And Zechariah is just trying to show them truth, but they're falling again into the wickedness and the gods of the east, the gods of Babylon, and the idea of Nimrod and his great tower. Let's keep reading. We might return to that. Try to keep it short today, though. Almost done here. Then the Lord said to me, take once more the equipment of a foolish shepherd. For behold, I am raising up in the land a shepherd, who does not care for those being destroyed, or seek the young, or heal the maimed, or nourish the healthy, but devours the flesh of the fat ones, tearing off even their hooves. Kind of like we mentioned before, eating the sheep instead of tending the sheep. Sometimes I'm a chiropractor, so we had a saying in chiropractic school that in chiropractic we devour our young, which means students are charged extensive amounts of money to go through school just to profit the chiropractic organizations. But if you're destroying the student, how are they going to ever become successful in practice? That's kind of what is being conveyed here, is these young Israelites just trying to learn how to live in the land again, how to run the temple services again, how to worship Yahweh. And there's these rulers who are using religion as a weapon over them, lording it over them, and using it to control them, not to have a better relationship with God. We see a lot of that with maybe not so much with the Pharisees, but definitely the Sadducees and those who are under the thumb of Herod the Great. And the other Herods, of course, Herod Antipas and the Tetrarch. I think that's the same thing, actually. Tetrarch and Antipas. But yeah, they were set up and controlled, just to profit the government and his will, using religion against us. And that's the same old story today too, right? Not just in Judaism, but in the church, of course. Yeah, every religious organization has this eventually take place, and That's why many find a close relationship with God outside of the church. I still believe you need a fellowship. But if you're going to that fellowship, it's for fellowship, it's for worship. Your relationship is found throughout the week and studying the Word, and that's on you. And you can go hear people speak, and you can listen to the ideas of others like you're listening to my rambling here. In no way is that sufficient for your time with the Word. Maybe to spark some desire and be like, Nate said some weird things. Let me go read Zechariah, right? If you do that, then I feel like I've won, right? I don't care if you glean anything from my exact words here or understanding of history or what. Interesting, the two staves, right, too. But let's finish that and then we'll talk about those. Tearing off the hooves. I think the notes mentioned that you tear off the hooves, be like, oh, this is all that was left. Some wild animal ate the sheep. So either you're lying or you're an incompetent shepherd and you couldn't protect shepherd, the sheep being Israel, I believe. So woe to my worthless shepherd who deserts the flock. He the sword strike his arm and his right eye. Let his arm be wholly withered, his right eye utterly blind. That's weird. Any type of mark on a priest would allow them to not serve in the temple. Often the right ear lobe and your right thumb and a big toe were anointed with blood, just like the leprous one would be anointed with blood to be clean. That's how the high priest would be anointed. It's the only time someone's actually anointed with blood. It's interesting. His arm is withered, and before it mentioned, take once more the equipment of a foolish shepherd. So what is the equipment of a foolish shepherd? What is he doing? You have a knife instead of a staff. You have these hooked staves to kind of guide the sheep, hook them by the neck, and also you could, get a wolf out of there, give it a little smack. So fullest equipment for a shepherd would be a knife, right? You're not going to probably do very well with a knife on a wolf. You'd have to go way too close, and you can't guide the sheep with it. So you can think about, and this goes back to a lot of study of the Hebrew letters. I actually just did a song, so that's why I'm thinking about it. I can't remember the words exactly, but there's definitely one that means a shepherd and how he guides us in love. So a knife may scare somebody and force them to do something, but it's not a way that you guide, and it's not a way that you protect. And so it could be a picture of the Word, the Torah, keeping God's Word and His law. It's meant to guide and protect us, right? It's about blessing and curse. And where a knife is just about getting what you want. It's a tool of the evil one. It's a tool of a false shepherd. And you could take that into account, like when you're wondering if people are speaking truth about faith. And let's make sure I know this message is here. Okay, it's just my father. Just my father. It's just the father. If someone's condemning you and they're attacking you, and it's like this feels like a knife, and it doesn't feel like the crook of a shepherd, guiding, and you're having this relationship. They're like, I see you going down this path. I don't think that's good. You know the difference, right? Someone who's just stabbing you out of self-righteousness, which the Pharisees, Sadducees were definitely very much like that. I think the Pharisees had far better intentions. They get a bad rap, right? Even the Pharisee means set apart one. People, they're just all lumped in the same category, but I think there's a lot more going on there than we take the time to study. And there's a lot of good things, maybe not in Judaism, but at that time, right? But definitely their oral law just being expanded. It was like being expanded as a knife. instead of this law that was guiding in love to protect. When you protect and you keep the law, it brings blessing. And that'll keep the wolves from enclosing, right? So we can kind of go back to, so we talked about the equipment of a foolish shepherd. We have these two staves. So we have a union and favor, right? So this idea of covenant. You're in covenant with Yahweh. What do? You've entered a relationship, and you're holding up your end of the bargain. It's, okay, God wants me to live this way. I should do that. And if I live that way, I'm going to receive favor. Now, this isn't prosperity gospel, but it's showing that you will receive blessing, and the blessing, you must understand, is the fruits of the Spirit, right? That's how God blesses you, is He gives you wisdom and knowledge and understanding and love and joy. He's not going to give you a Bentley and a mansion, right? He might, if He feels like you can use that. For most of us, if you give me a Bentley and a mansion, I'd probably lose focus on God. God knows that He has to keep a lot of us humble so we can keep our eyes focused on Him. He's a good shepherd, just like Zechariah was trying to be. So it even mentions like annulling the covenant here. He broke that staff. So and a lot of times we have this discussion of the broken covenant. Was the northern kingdom divorced? And is this showing now a picture of Judah being divorced? And I tend to lean towards that it's a covenant with the land, right? Because it's about the temple, it's about the land. So the northern kingdom was divorced from the land, not from the covenant of Yahweh, His relationship with them. Anyone can enter into that. But as far as the favor of living in the land, this union in the land, having a temple, because all these sacrifices and all, it brings so much blessing, a closeness to God that we don't experience today, but we will experience in the millennial reign, and when we have Jesus coming back, and ultimately when Yahweh, His full presence comes back on the earth, and we'll have that beautiful relationship again. Right now we are living in exile, so part of that favor is gone. So He broke favor, right? But did He break union? I don't believe He did. He devoured the flesh, He broke favor, annulling the covenant. So I could say the covenant with the land would be my guess there. Again, test this out for yourself. Does it make sense that He would divorce His people, right? All right, no, yeah, He doesn't break it. And then we didn't really talk about the silver. Why is He's getting this poor wage, and then the Lord is telling him to throw it to the potter. So why does He do this? Oh yeah, He does break His second staff union here. Okay, and I broke my second staff union, annulling the brotherhood between Judah and Israel. Interesting. So the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. So not necessarily a union with God, but a union between Judah and Israel. Yeah, because even at the time of Jesus, there's Samaria. It's not getting along well with Judah. Of course, they hate each other, despise each other. Probably a lot of the exiles from Assyrian captivity have not returned to the land. And we could think about, some people think of them like the Christian church is kind of like Israel, and Judaism is like Judah, and they just don't see eye to eye. They don't get along. One has the Messiah, the other one's still waiting on Messiah, but they have the Torah, and they both get to learn a lot from each other, but we're both so stubborn to kind of take a middle stance and be a good shepherd for them to guide them to truth. But yeah, I would still say that even though both staves are broken here, that it's not a union between God and his people, right? There's probably people here in this particular context that don't have a relationship with him yet, but he's overall showing that. Okay, I'm going to break my favor with you, the blessing of the land. You might be in it for a time, but Antiochus Epiphanes is coming, and then the Roman invasion, or the Roman occupation, and governing, and then eventually you will be scattered again, just like the Babylonian exile. So my favor is gone from you. Some from the northern kingdom returned at this time to Judah, for sure. We see some even coming down for the feasts. Chronicles. So there had been a relationship, but overall, never again do the two houses unite under one kingdom. And as far as the potter, I'm still kind of drawing a blank on that one. I wish I could give you more. Might be a reference to that figurine earlier. Make something out of silver. It's definitely a picture of our ultimate shepherd, Jesus. I feel that's kind of like the obvious one. If you're just in Judaism, you're not really going to see that. The potter's field and 30 pieces of silver. That's not going to be the first thing you think of. So I'm trying to think of, just in this context, what's going on. Obviously, that's something beautiful there, though. Very interesting. Alright, guys, if you have any thoughts and ideas on that, let me know. If I come across anything by the time I do the next video, I'll try to do a little bit every morning here now, if I can. Just studying the Word, going through it, reading, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, and take care.